allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. With that, we will call our city council meeting of January 10th to order. First thing on our agenda is public comment, personal communications or correspondence to come before the council. This is in regards to anything that's not on our agenda. If you have something to bring up, please let us know. Step forward.
Can we work on a bigger building? Don't get the idea. We got a lot of
That depends on the taxpayers.
pretty. Well, we play funny on this. We do our end. You guys need to do your end from the looks of it.
So I have a quick question.
Yes.
Can we talk about the Thacker Pass during Thacker Pass?
We're not addressing Thacker Pass at all. All we're talking about is
The
city property and a lease or sell. And our decision isn't whether we're going to make that decision, whether we're moving forward and start the process, which is to get appraisals, come up with a cost estimate, how much it appraises. It's quite a process. Before we'd ever make a decision, whether it's going to go or not, they want to know how much we're going to charge them for it. We need to get a fair price because it is public property. And so it's 3 to 6 months down the road before we ever get to that kind of a decision, I'm guessing. Is that about right, Mr. Mon?
That's all right, yeah.
Okay.
I have some questions. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you're not going to want to answer them.
Wait a minute, this is public comment, not
I know, I'm going to
question and
comment.
answer.
We don't have, yeah.
I understand it. Well, you can look at them as questions you can answer or not, or interrogatories at a certain point. Okay. Who presented this agenda number 3? Who brought that into the picture here?
We've had communications with Lithium over a period of time about this project. And, the city manager and myself discussed it, and we're the ones who brought it to the agenda because we can't make a decision unless it comes to a public meeting.
So the intent is to lease or sell it to a lithium company.
That's not our intent yet. I mean,
You've had multiple communications.
we've had communication. They've looked at other sites around the community and in the
Okay.
county.
Okay, I'm going to say keep looking for sites because it's not going to happen at that 177 acre parcel. A number of reasons. One, that location is a breed.
I'm going to ask you to wait until we get to that subject, if you're going to comment on that subject. This communication is for things that aren't on this agenda.
Okay, I'll wait till we get on that subject.
Thank you.
So if I come up and talk about Thacker Pass,
The city has
can't,
no say-so about Thacker Pass.
I understand you don't have any say so, but it has connections with what you're trying to do with this dump station or whatever you want to call it that you're going to set up for them if they buy the property.
It's a proposed transloading,
Yeah.
not a dump
Well,
station.
yeah, so the train is the train. They're going to connect it to the train so they can
So,
back and forth off the train station, correct?
right.
That's what it's for. Okay, so whatever it's called. So I just wanted to say a few things about it from my public comment. My name is Deborah Gay and I live out on Rose Creek Road. So I know that Humboldt County is the one that has a lot of the bearing on this, but because you guys are gonna or are looking into selling that property to the lithium mine, my concerns with this whole mine thing, the contamination of the air, the contamination of our water, the draining of the basin, the rivers, the streams, the lakes, the killing of the wildlife out there, it'll bring toxic chemicals through our town. It will bring them right through our town. It will damage our roads because you're looking at 100 trucks coming through there. And that's only for the first 4 years. After that, it could go up to 120 to 200 trucks a day. Rose Creek Road cannot handle that. Airport Road cannot handle that. none of the roads in our area can handle what would happen if they purchased your land.
Right.
And the protocols for spills and what's going to happen within those 100 trucks that are going to come through the day. What's the protocols? I mean, you're going to sell it to them. Who's going to do the protocols for what's going to happen if their trucks spill? We get a spill in an area. I mean, this is all concerning. And then they're going to travel from Orvada through 95 down Reinhardt Road to the Highway 173 and Rose Creek Road. That would be the only place to go. That's not a good, those roads can't handle 100 trucks. This cannot. I mean, put it in your own backyard. You guys want that? You want to sell that property? Find somebody else to sell it to. Put them somewhere else because we do not want all those trucks on our road. It is insane what is happening here. You also got to all remember, we have children. What are we doing? What are we doing to our children? We're going to leave them with all this chemical spill and all this stuff that's going to happen at this mine. It's all for the money. This is all for the money. It has nothing to do with Winnemucca. It is not going to do any good for us. It's going to destroy our town if you guys let this stuff into our town. It's already going to destroy Orvada. It's going to kill them. The burning of that sulfur in their area is going to pollute their air. I'm ashamed of the city and the county for even going to bed with these people. I'm ashamed. Thank you.
We just had a request if everybody can speak up because people down the hallway can't.
No, you don't want me to talk, but I live adjacent to the property. My property is zoned Ag 5. You're not going to put any kind of industrial lithium chemical, anything with a few 100 feet of my property. So you can tell them to find another place, and you lithium people, sorry, you're not going to do it at that 177 acre parcel. It's a migratory habitat for breeding burrowing owls. They're a protected species. That alone is going to stop this. Class action lawsuits against this body and that body are going to happen. So you might as well cut your lawsuit. It's not going to happen. I live a few 100 feet from that site. I will not let it happen. So all your communication with the Thacker Pass people, that's going to be in discovery. Any communication you have, this will not happen. I would bet 99% of these people support that. It's not going to happen, period. We can keep going with this, or you can get it off the agenda. And I'm going to wait.
What's your names? I want to know your name.
You know, my name doesn't matter. I could be John Q. Lawsuit. I could be John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith. Doesn't matter. My name's Kevin Bodecker. I'm an adjacent property owner. Other adjacent property owners will not let this happen either. That property is zoned Ag 5, not industrial commercial. Sorry, it won't happen.
Thank you.
I'm 100% agreement with him.
Any other comments not dealing with the transloading? Thank you. With that, we'll move on with our agenda. Next thing on our agenda is meeting minutes for review and approval. The December 13th, 2022 regular city council meeting. Has everybody had time to review that? And to point out that we do have Councilman Mendiola online.
Motion to approve the December 13th, 2022 City Council regular meeting minutes as presented.
A motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda, warrants, expenses, review and approval. Everybody had time to review the warrants? Get their questions answered?
I would make a motion to approve the warrants as presented.
Motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on our agenda, proclamations, awards, and presentation. We just have one proclamation. It is the yearly one that we get for the National Radon Action Month. The month of January is Radon Awareness Month, and radon is a odorless, colorless, radioactive gas that naturally occurs in soil, and we encourage everybody to contact the extension office and get a test kit, and you can have your test done, mailed in, results come back, there's no cost. So anybody who has those concerns should contact the extension office. With that, we'll move on to regular business items for discussion and action. First thing on our agenda is business impact. Determination that the agenda items of this meeting agenda do or do not impose a direct and significant economic burden on a business, meaning a trade or occupation conducted for profit, or directly restrict the formation, operation, or expansion of business.
I'd go ahead and make a motion that there are no items on the agenda that impose a direct or significant economic burden on staff, on business per staff recommendation.
No, I can't hear what you're saying.
You speak up?
Sure. I'd go ahead and make a motion that there are no items on the agenda that impose a direct or significant economic burden on business per staff recommendation.
Motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on our agenda, administration, historical plaque placement request. Request to place a plaque with historical information relating to the French Bridge, also known as Bridge Street Bridge. This was brought to us by the Clampers. Do we have representation here? Come on up.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Edward French. I am the president for Samuel L. Clements, an outpost of Snowshoe Thompson. We are a historical society. There you go. And there you go. I think I made enough for everybody. I'm not sure. Here you go. That one up. We were like to propose to put a plaque up at Bridge, at French Bridge, or at the Ford Bridge, excuse me, French Bridge, yeah. We understand it's a historical bridge, okay? We are going to put this plaque up. It will cost the city no money whatsoever. We are willing to pay this out of our own pocket. What you see in front of you is what will be placed on the plaque. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read it, please.
Please.
The site of the Winnemucca was originally was a trading post. The post was located at the best spot to ford the Humboldt River for many miles. During the high water, a ferry was used to cross the river. In March 1865, Joseph, I'm going to pronounce it the best I can, Winnemucca had built a bridge. Winnemucca was building the Humboldt Canal from Golconda to Mill City. While the ground was frozen, halting the work on the canal, he had the men overseeing the canal project. Frank, Bud, and brothers Lewis and Thermopylae Lay constructed the bridge. It was known as Winnemucca's Bridge, and by late 1866, it was commonly referred to as French Bridge. A new bridge was built in December 1869. The bridge was operated as a toll bridge until September 1871, when it was purchased and became the property of Humboldt County. Dedicated April, we're going to do this on the April 15th, with your permission, 2023, by Samuel L. Clements, 1856, an outpost of Snowshoe Thompson, 1827, of E. Clements Vitus.
E. Clements Vitus has been in our community for several years that I'm aware of, and they've plaqued several buildings. They've plaqued the Phillips Furniture Building, they've plaqued the Martin Motel, they've plaqued the
cemetery,
the Desert Mountain Surveying. So they've done several plaquing, and they're a fun group, and they just like to bring history to the forefront. I think this is a good cause. So, council, do you have any questions or?
Where is the information? Do you guys get this from with the Humboldt Museum, working with them, or where's the information pulled from?
Where did our historian get this from, Steve?
I would imagine probably from You know those books you can go out there about Humboldt County, you get from the.
Probably from the Humboldt Museum.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the information.
Our historian lives in Battle Mountain. He couldn't make it out here today. All right, so I'm sorry, I don't have more information on that.
It's just interesting. Thank you so much for the work that you
I would
guys have
assume
done.
most of that information come out of that little white book that the museum sells about different things in Humboldt County.
Yeah, the historical tour that they did.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's, I can't think of what the society, they were, probably most of that written about the year I was born. A lot of it's pretty old information, way back in the day.
Awesome.
I appreciate you making the point to put these sites up and this information up for people to read. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
It would be my pleasure to make the motion that we allow Eclampus Vitus to place a historical plaque with information related to French Bridge, known as the Bridge Street Bridge, in April of 2023.
Have a motion on the floor. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. You know, everybody's invited.
As always, I was just gonna say that. They always invite everybody to this.
We love it.
What time will that be? Do you have a time set for that, sir? Do
I'm sorry?
you have a time set for that?
Usually do our classes about.
When I was president doing all that, I was doing them around 12 o'clock, so probably 12.
12 or 12:30.
If
I
you'd
can let you know.
notify us, we'll get the.
I'll probably see you again, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we move on to our agenda. Item number 3, administration, airport lease purchase proposal. Proposal to purchase or lease 177.31 acre parcel at the airport industrial park for the purpose of a transloading terminal. And
For the record, I will be abstaining from this agenda item due to my employment relation with the company.
Councilperson Madden is abstaining from any action or discussion on this matter because she is employed by Lithium. With that, we have a presentation. Tom, would you state your name for our record?
Yes, I hope I speak loudly enough for everybody to hear and not loud enough to deafen you all in front of me here. My name is Tom Karras, and I'm with Lithium Nevada Corporation. And I'm pleased to present this. It's fairly brief, except for a bunch of fine print that they put in it. But I just background wise, I lived here in Winnemucca from 2009 through 2014. I'm back east originally. My family grew up, raised my family, I should say, in Northwest Georgia. We moved out here in 2009 to take a job with Cyanco. And I worked out here and lived out here for 5 years. And in 2014, moved to the corporate headquarters, which was in Houston, Texas. But I was always glad to be able to come back out here as the project manager for the expansion that we did several years ago. It's that new tall white building that's out there. So having those preliminaries out of the way, I would like to just jump into this presentation. If you can go to the third slide, I believe it is. So what I'd like to do today in just hopefully about 10 minutes is to give some background about what Lithium Nevada wants to do, would request to do, and why, and address some of the concerns and questions that the city council and the community has. So as you can see on this slide here, first of all, this is the first of 5 slides that we have. This is why a transload terminal. What's the purpose of it? What will it do? The next is the location. Don't move forward yet. I'm just telling you what the other slides are to give you a look forward. What's the location of the transload terminal that we're proposing? What's the physical layout of the transload terminal going to look like? What materials will be transloaded? In fact, what does transloading mean? I'll describe that in a second. And then what would the operation look like? Again, the overall purpose of this presentation before the city council is to hopefully be able to move forward, start the process, as you mentioned, to either lease or purchase this parcel in the Winnemucca Airport Industrial Park. So background wise, again, I'm a chemical engineer. My first job out of college back in 1985 was in North Florida at a phosphate plant. I was a process engineer for a sulfuric acid facility. And much of my career since then has been involved with sulfur and sulfuric acid. So I'm fairly familiar with it. You can see where Thacker Pass is. I think everyone's familiar with that. There are 6 particular raw materials that need to be received at Thacker Pass Chemical Plant in order to manufacture lithium carbonate. And I'll get into what those chemicals are, what those materials are. There's only Union Pacific Railroad north of the river and south of the river, so everybody's probably familiar with. There is no rail up to either Orovada or Thacker Pass. So in order to get those materials up to Thacker Pass, we need to transload. And transload means we bring in quantities of these materials in rail cars, and we transfer them from a rail car over to trucks. And then we have to truck up the approximately I think it's 45 miles, give or take, to Orovada, and then another 18 miles from Orovada to Thacker Pass. So when we say a transloading terminal, what we're talking about is transloading from rail cars over to trucks. The area that you can see at the bottom there, the Winnemucca Municipal Airport, there is the Winnemucca Airport Industrial Park there. We have, as was mentioned, looked at a number of other potential locations for this transload terminal. This one for us and for the community, we believe, is the best location, and I'll get into why as we go through this a little further. The next slide, please. So this looks like, if any of you have seen the old hotel keys from long ago, the big, huge, thick ones with the little key at the edge there, that's what this parcel looks like. It's highlighted in yellow. We call it the western parcel. There's also an eastern parcel in the airport industrial park. The western parcel is 177 acres. The eastern parcel is 217 acres. The eastern parcel, the FAA has requested that that be reserved for future airport expansion. So we're looking at the western parcel over here. In red, you see some stair steps that match the yellow stair steps. That's where we would request an easement or a right of way to bring the rail and the road for the trucks in. So just as I guess to give you a little bit of a scale, the overall parcel from one end to the other is close to a mile. You'll see on the next slide when we get there in a second that the transload terminal will be almost centered in this western parcel. It's about a half a mile as the crow flies up northwest there to the community that's up there. It's about a mile to the other side of the airport where the community over there is. And for the record also, while I was living out here from 2009 to 14, I did live on Nugget Drive. So I'm very familiar with that area. We used to go for walks all around there. Next slide, please. So here you can see the Union Pacific main line. That's right at the top. And over at the right-hand side, you can see Airport Road. The little dashed line that you see in the bottom right is the end of the runway. And that's the eastern parcel. You see the western parcel. In green, you can see is where we want to turn out from the Union Pacific main line. And it forms a basic loop around this parcel here. We have what we call drop and pull tracks. The railroad would drop the cars off at the drop and pull tracks, and we would put them into that center portion where you see sulfur unloading and all other products unloading. And we'll get into those products in a moment. It's a good sized parcel. There's about 30,000 feet of rail track. That's almost 6 miles. So this is a lot of rail track going in. And when I worked out at Cyanco before I left, I put in, it was 9,000 feet of track there for that expansion. And I thought that was pretty big at the time. This is a nice amount of track here. It's about a $60 million capital investment in the area. It has about 18,000 square feet of buildings, which is right by the S and sulfur unloading. There's a couple of buildings for offices and for some utilities. Again, off to the right, if you go on the other side of Airport Road, it's about a mile from Westmoreland Drive, Commander Drive, and that community out there. About a half a mile up to the nearest neighbors to the northwest from here. Our primary concerns and goals as we have designed the layout of this facility, no dusting, not minimum, but no dusting, no smell, minimize light pollution. We're very concerned about that. We fully support the Dark Skies Initiative, and minimize noise. I know that those are all concerns for anyone that lives out in this area. Again, for 15 years, just by way of comparison, I worked at a company called Chemical Products Corporation in Cartersville, Georgia, where I currently live now. And in the 15 years I worked there, we had a sulfur manufacturing facility and a handling facility, and it was literally in the center of town. Is to this day. It was founded in 1933. The technology exists and has in fact been improved many times since on being able to handle products, including sulfur, without any smell and without any issues like that. We had neighborhoods right around the fence line of our facility there without complaints. You know, it was in there, like I said, since 1933, I believe it was. Go to the next slide, please. So here's the big question. You know, what materials will be transloaded? What materials will be moved from rail car over to truck? And I wanted to really emphasize, I think this is important because there's a lot of concern in the community, I know, and there is some misinformation out there too. These products that we're looking at here, 6 of them: sulfur, soda ash, quicklime, off-road diesel, caustic soda solution, and hydrochloric acid. These are all, in one way or another, household chemicals. And when I say that, I personally have checked in my household, and I have all 5 of these. I do not have any off-road diesel. I have 5 of the 6. And once you think about this, I'll suspect that most people here have all of these in their household. So everybody knows what sulfur is. Soft yellow solid. We'll be handling it in the liquid form. It's typically handled in the liquid form at about 300 degrees, about 80, 90 degrees above the boiling point of water. It has many uses. Its primary use in the world, in fact, is the manufacture of sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid happens to be the largest commodity chemical in the world and in this country. It's also used for other things you see there: agricultural fungicide and insecticide. And I didn't even put fertilizer. Oh my goodness, everybody's heard of NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Well, a 4th primary one, if you want to extend it, is S. It's an essential plant nutrient, sulfur. In fact, most farmers, if there are farmers or ranchers here, typically, depending on the crop, will put anywhere from 10 to 25 pounds per acre of sulfur on their crops each year. So if you have in your garage a bag of NPK fertilizer, odds are you've got sulfur in there also. Soda ash, it's a white granular powder. It's also called sodium carbonate. It's very, very common. It's used in fact, it's the sister of baking soda. It's used in household detergents, cleaners, et cetera, et cetera. If you use a powdered laundry detergent or dishwashing soap, you've got soda ash in your house. In fact, it's interesting if you want to Google household uses of soda ash, you'd be surprised. I think everyone here would recognize and in fact use soda ash. Quicklime is a white crystalline solid. It's also known as calcium oxide. It's formed by heating up or calcining limestone. It drives off some of the carbon and oxygen. It's used in the manufacture of iron and steel, pulp and paper, treatment of water and flue gases. If you have a water softener in your house, you probably have quicklime. It's a key component in water softeners. It's also FDA approved food additive list. If you search for that, it's used in the manufacture of finely ground flours, et cetera. So I know I have quicklime in my house, and I suspect most people here do too. You might not know it though. The one that I'm not that familiar with is the off-road diesel. The 2 vehicles that I own are gasoline powered, but it's a clear amber liquid. I think everybody here is familiar with it. caustic soda solution, also known as sodium hydroxide. These chemical names can be a little scary, but it's used for household cleaners. If you've got any household cleaners in your home, you probably have some sodium hydroxide. In fact, if you've ever had a plugged drain and have dumped some Drano down it, guess what you've just done? You just dumped, you see the solid form right there? You just dumped pure sodium hydroxide down your drain to clean it. Again, a household chemical. Hydrochloric acid. If you haven't heard of that before, you might have heard of muriatic acid. That's a synonym for it. If you own a swimming pool, like I used to, I don't now. If you own a swimming pool, you probably use muriatic acid. It adjusts the pH. It's also used for other things that are mentioned there, including household cleaners. Once a week, my wife and I have agreed that it's my job to clean the toilet bowls. I probably mess it more than she does. And I use this pretty blue toilet bowl cleaner. Well, I'm using hydrochloric acid. That's what is one of the main ingredients of that. So again, these are the 6 materials that we're looking at transloading, which means we bring them in rail cars, transfer them over to truck quantities, and truck them up to Thacker Pass. Next slide, please. This is the last slide that I have. And I just wanted to talk about, what do the operations look like? First of all, MT. You see in that second column over there, it says MT per year. That's metric ton. That's 1,000 kilograms, which is about 2,200 pounds, about 10% more than a standard ton, what we are used to thinking about. See that sulfur, liquid sulfur is the primary one. That's about 60% on a tonnage basis of what we would be transloading from rail to truck. And there the other 5 are soda ash, quicklime, off-road diesel, caustic soda, and hydrochloric acid. So it comes in rail cars. That's in the peach color right there. We'll be averaging about 15 rail cars per day. Now they'll probably be received 3 times a week or so. So maybe, twice that many per load coming in. Outgoing trucks, we're looking at a total of about 39 trucks per day. Most of it is sulfur, about 2/3 sulfur, like I said. And, if we operate like we plan to 12 hours a day, we're talking about, what does that come to? 3.25. So a little over 3 trucks per hour would be coming to and leaving the facility. I've lived in Winnemucca long enough to know that if I sit at the McDonald's on Winnemucca Boulevard, I see a whole lot more than this per minute going by probably. But I did just want to give you an idea of the size and scope of what we're talking about. There's been a bit of misinformation out there.
He's commenting, you get your turn.
So we're talking about 3 to 4 trucks per hour. And we're also talking about somewhere between 40 and 50, as we say here, local competitive wage jobs created. It's also a way to diversify the economy. And I think this would be a win-win and a really good use for the airport industrial park. As you saw, and we can discuss this if there's more desire to, but also in that industrial park layout that we have there, there is additional property just to the west of where we would like to site this transload terminal, and some privately owned property past that with nothing built on it yet, that an additional partner would be able to move in and also make use of this rail siding that we'll have here. We would love to be able to partner with someone in the future on something like that. That's my presentation, and I'm happy to attempt to answer any questions.
Couple questions.
Mhm.
Would we be storing anything at the site? Or is it going to be transferred right away and shipped?
That's a great question. It depends on the sulfur. Can you go back 2 slides to the layout? You see the little circle right below the S?
Yes.
That is a sulfur storage tank. That'll hold about 1 week's supply of sulfur. And the reason for that is sometimes you know what happens with rail. You can't afford to, now there'll be additional storage up at the site too. That's about 5,000 metric ton storage tank. Other than that, the soda ash, which is the next largest thing that we'll be transloading, we would like to have a little silo which would hold again a few days worth of soda ash in it. Everything else would be transferred directly from rail to truck.
Are these chemicals and things that you're going to have to work with NDEP to get permits for? It's for storage or any of that purpose?
We do have to get an air permit from NDEP.
Okay.
Not for the storage or anything like that. But the purpose of that is to show to the NDEP that we would be properly handling the sulfur, because it can, if you don't properly, have a little bit of odor attached to it. So in all of our handling, we will maintain everything under a very slight negative pressure of several inches of water. And in order to do that, you have to have fans that pull a slight vacuum, and then it all goes through what's called a scrubber before it releases the purified air.
Okay. Some of the things you talked about was, the lights, I've heard comments about, the lights even out there, the noise out there. This project, for the community's information, our economic development and the city and the county do a strategic plan periodically. And one of the things in the last 20 years that has been highlighted as a need for our community is a transloading facility. And I'm glad to hear that if you guys go forward with this and we make this deal, that you would be receptive to having other clients or customers use the facility, because that's a positive impact on our economy here in Humboldt County. So.
And by the way, since you mentioned the dark skies again, I remember in August of 2009, at the time I have 6 children and 3 of them came out with us. The other 3 were already in college. I remember the first night we were here, we had dinner at Sid's, and then we drove out halfway north of where Cyanco is down Jungo Road, and we just turned out the lights and we watched the sky, and it was awesome because you don't see anything like that north of Atlanta, Georgia, I'll tell you. So I'm very sensitive to that too.
Cyanco's been mentioned, that was a very controversial thing in our community several years ago, and they've proved to be a good employer. I mean, they internationally sell products. We've not had any incidents there, and they've been right up front with our community, training our police officers, our fire department on hazmat issues and things like that. So, it's something that I understand the community's concerned, but if you guys do the right job, we shouldn't have a negative impact, just like Cyanco.
So we would obviously, if you, as the city council, decide to move forward with the beginning of the process, as you mentioned, to potentially sell or lease, we would like to come back and provide a whole lot more information on exactly how we hope to accomplish that and indeed plan to accomplish that, obviously in a safe and environmentally friendly manner. It's a primary concern of ours.
Just comment briefly, sir. You said, this location is really the one that you feel that your needs the best for a transload. What about it specifically? I've got a hunch we have folks who might like to know what made this one stand out above other locations that you looked at.
Yeah, there were many other locations that we did look at. And I'll, just by way of answering the question, if I can mention just a few of them.
Please.
We did look north of I-80 at the UP line that's up north of the river there. We did look at the UP rail yard that's right there. It's a little small. We could have possibly fit something in there. And we looked at the Cyanco. They own 2 squares of land, and we looked at the northern parcel there. And both of those have some issues with some utilities and also, frankly, the nearby the roadway and the way it intersects Jungo Road with 95, the US 95 right there. That's just not a very good intersection. I mean, even though Cyanco drives their trucks through that intersection, even though we're only looking at 3 to 4 trucks per hour, we really didn't want to increase that traffic flow there and right by that Pioneer Park neighborhood area. We looked at the WSP, the old potato plant is what I called it when I lived here behind Walmart. You know, they've got a lot of, they're looking for people to utilize some of that property. And I spent some time walking around with some of those folks here about a year ago. Again, it's the proximity right there to Walmart and everything else. It just didn't have the right feel to it. And plus the layout of the property, the length versus the width of the property south of the rail really didn't fit having a big loop like we're desiring to have there. And that's at the request of the UP Railroad, by the way, is to have a loop so that they don't have to come and drop and pull. They can just go in a circle and come back out. So the geometry of that site was not optimum.
You mentioned the only storage will be the one tank, and so you're.
And then a little soda ash.
Soda ash tank, excuse me. Everything else, you're envisioning that it'd be pulled, the railroad cars per day. So the railroad cars that are there are either going to be being emptied or they're going to be being pulled out.
So yeah, you saw the big loop. If you can go to the next slide, please. Where it says drop and pull loop, you know, it doesn't really show up here, but that's really 2 tracks in the loop and 2 more what they call indexing tracks. So there's really 4 right there. So yeah, when the Union Pacific Railroad would bring in, they drop them off. We would accumulate some of those rail cars there to make sure that we always have a number of rail cars to be able to pull from. We index them, pull them into the unloading section, transload it to the trucks, put them on the other one of the drop and pull tracks. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We feel that we can adequately handle the much smaller volumes, if you remember from that last chart, for all of them except for sulfur through that method with no problem.
Okay. And you mentioned that open 12 hours a day, but a 24-hour, so 12 hours a day it would be shut down? Or you're just saying 12 hours a day of railroad cars being pulled in and trucks pulled in and out?
Well, actually, the rail cars would be pulled in probably 3 times a week, and that would last about an hour per drop and pull. So every 2 to 3 days, the rail would, the trucks would typically transload and be loaded up and then leave during the 12-hour daylight period, give or take. I mean, we could do it 24 hours a day, but again, we're sensitive to, the noise of the operation, which is very minimal compared to an airport that we're next to and a rail line that we're just south of. But we're sensitive to that nonetheless. And of course, the light pollution. So yes, we feel that at 12 hours a day, we could easily, as I showed on that last chart, about 3 to 4 trucks per hour leaving the facility, handle the needs of the facility up at Packer Pass.
And then as far as identifying the lighting, it will be at nighttime, those lights will be dimmed, or, you'll have lights on 24 hours a day, obviously, for safety.
Yeah, right in the center where you see the all others unloading and the sulfur unloading, there's going to be some office building and some utility buildings there. So there will have to be some downward pointing lights on 24 hours a day and on some of the roadways right near that area. But, the big track that goes all the way around and all the other lengthy tracks, there's no need for lighting there at all.
Pam, do you have any comments?
Do you have similar operation anywhere else throughout the country or the world for this?
We do not. We're still a startup company in that regard. Mm-hmm. I have worked for many companies that do. In fact, when I worked at Cyanco, I was the project manager for a facility that was similar to this. And in a way, it's similar to what we're doing at Cyanco now. We're bringing in rail car quantities of stuff, but instead of transferring it over to trucks, we're transferring it directly to the silos for use there, if that makes sense. There are many sulfur terminals like this, and I personally have visited in the last year and a half, I guess about 8 or 9 of them, including one that's out by Carlin. Mm-hmm. There's a transload facility very similar to this, much smaller, but very similar, including the sulfur transfer, and a number of them in Texas and Florida. There are quite a few around the country, and that's indicative of the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, that sulfur and sulfuric acid, even though most people aren't aware of it, is absolutely the largest commodity chemical in the world and in this country. And that just is another, I think, indication of how well handled it is and how safe it is that most people aren't even aware of that.
And that was my question. With regards to other locations, if they've had any problems, any spills, what the response time would be to address a spill.
Mhm. Well, that's one of the nice things that people don't typically understand about sulfur is, again, because it's a naturally occurring element, we are very sensitive to spills or any kind of discharge that doesn't go to a truck. But quite frankly, if it does end up spilled on the ground, you let it solidify just like ice freeze, and then you shovel it up. I mean, it's a naturally occurring element that farmers put on their fields. I still remember when I lived here, I took my family out past Highcroft, the old we used to explore ghost town of Sulphur, Nevada. And I remember I still have in my rock collection at home hunks of native sulfur that's naturally occurring, laying all over the land out there. It's a naturally occurring element.
Interesting, thank you.
Vince, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I don't at this time.
Thank you. Anything you need to ask?
I don't have anything to add regarding
Okay.
I had one more question, and I'm sorry. When you were talking about the movement, the sulfur transfer, it's a sealed transfer line from the rail car to the truck or the rail car to the storage facility.
Correct. It goes from the rail car directly to the sulfur tank, and then from the sulfur tank, the storage tank, into the trucks. And all of that is always maintained under a very slight negative pressure.
Okay.
And it's designed, in fact, to have the flow of air, but the flow of air is designed to be going from the outside to the inside.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I guess we'll open it up to the public. Just a brief public comment is generally limited to about 3 minutes per person, one time per person. So you're not going to be coming back and back and back. So
You want me to stay here for, or?
you can.
Can you get another chair back on the screen? The chemicals that you were using, can you get that back on the screen?
Sure.
I can do that.
I just have one certain.
You want to come up here? State your name for our record.
My name is Bob Cobb. I live out on Crosswind, Grass Valley. I'd like to know, do you have a risk assessment done for this site? And if not, when can we expect them?
Is this something that I should be directly interacting with the audience? I mean, I don't mind, but I don't
You can if you want. Yeah, it's up to you.
Okay. Yes, there have been many facilities like this that have been operated with risk assessments, and we have done plenty of research. We've hired a couple of environmental companies to actually do dispersion that says, what if the negative pressure on the sulfur systems that I was discussing, what if that was to fail? What if the sulfur that's coming in had the highest amount of any dissolved gases that you can smell that you can get in the United States? What would happen to that gas? And we have determined already that at the site boundaries, you would not be able to smell it. And in addition to that, then we went ahead and put in the scrubber system.
Okay, but you do have a risk assessment, a formal risk assessment that's been done for this site, not others, but this site.
I would say it depends on how you define a risk assessment. Yes, we have done formal risk
It's a
assessment.
risk assessment.
See, there are some that are done internally, some that are done by third parties, some that are done by government agencies. And the reason I couch it like that is we have not yet gone until we reach a conclusion here to say NDEP
Yeah.
and with the formal risk assessment that they want to see.
Per ISO 14,001.
Well, that's different what they're going to want, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Obviously, you're a little educated there on that, so thank you.
I did it for 35 years, yeah.
Oh, period. More than I am, and I guarantee you.
So when can we expect a risk assessment for this?
I would say as soon as we decide that we're going to move forward, and that's not up to me, that's up to the city council. if they decide they want to move forward and investigate the potential of sale or lease, we would be happy to then provide all the additional information that I discussed earlier, and that would be included in that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Hello, Christina Kennison. This is mostly direct to the city council, and I ask that you guys take this with quite a bit of responsibility, considering most of the people here that this will affect live in the county and have absolutely zero say in the city council, in the mayor's office, in voting. And so I think that is pretty serious here. And listening to this was also interesting because there's a lot of things he's leaving out. There's a lot of information, very big information, that he has purposely left out of this proposal, which I find interesting because it seems like he doesn't want you all to know because nobody's asking the right questions. What's the biggest part of this facility? How is the sulfur coming in? It's coming in dry. What do they need to do in order to put it to, it's not coming in dry?
It's coming in liquid.
Liquid. Is it molten liquid or are you having to get it up to heat while it's there at the facility?
No, it comes in the liquid form and we translate it to the tank in the liquid form and then out of the tank into the trucks in liquid form.
And how long will it be heating in the liquid form there?
Not sure what that means.
So liquid form sulfur will release sodium dioxide, a toxin, into the air. He's going to sugarcoat all of this for you. He's hoping we're all dumb, like rednecks out here. So, and his whole thing living out here and trying to act like he's a local, no, because I live less than half a mile as the crow flies. Okay, we just put a house on the property right next to us for my son who's getting married. I want grandbabies next door. Anybody else want to put this near where they have their families and their generations that they're planning on being there? Because I can tell you, nobody here would want this in your own backyard. I would literally be able to go out into my backyard and look at this 24/7. I have livestock outside. I have asthma. I actually can't have a lot of those cleaners in my home. It could kill me. So you're talking about this stuff, it's not for the public. You're talking about stuff that has the potential to be deadly. You're talking about something that you want to put next to the airport that is absolutely essential during fire season out here. And we all know that the fire planes go there, get the retardant. So if there's any kind of damage or anything to the infrastructure because of what they do and it hinders the airport, what's going to happen during fire season? These are just some of the small things. They are seriously sugarcoating this. None of us were notified of this meeting. This is a city council meeting. We are county residents. This should not even go any further because it is just unbelievable. Have any of the other sites that you've gone to had homes as close for this many homes? Wow, you guys, he doesn't want to speak now.
If that was a question to me, I will say I worked 15 years at a site similar to this, and my house was right outside the site. And in fact, I live there this day, so I moved back to Cartersville.
Do you have asthma?
No, I do not.
Do you understand the concern with livestock that's outside 24 hours a day? We can't bring them in when the air gets bad. And the 0% dust, people, impossible. The winds out there are unbelievable. You cannot control it. He's saying he's going to control Mother Nature at this point because that is like ridiculous. How many of you have had big things in your yard blown away or knocked over by the wind out there?
You know,
I mean, we're talking about people who had campers blown.
you're assuming that this gas will be released into the air. This is a closed system.
Yes, you are right. And the EPA, by the way, y'all can look at this. Sulfur dioxide, that's from the EPA. That's what they have to go through. That's the toxin they're talking about, just one of them. One of them. And there's an acceptable rate that they can release. So no matter what you do or say, they're not going to be watched. No one's going to go out there and say, oh, it smells now. You said you weren't going to do it. Guess what? Exactly. You can't go back. And they're going to bring other stuff there. And then what happens if they move or they decide to bring in other chemicals? We will have no say.
Okay, your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Mayor.
People quit past county commissioner, and we worked with a joint venture to make this airport leased with the county and the city because of the transportation pattern and air traffic in here. They can apply for the grants. This is not something that you can fault with the city. It's not their fault. They inherited just albatross. It's almost an untenable position, I should say, but it has to function that way. And I appreciate this gentleman said, I think he's been forthright, and I understand sulfur. We use it all the time. We put up 200 pounds an acre on stuff out there. Anything's alkaline, Nevada needs sulfur. Guess what? And we're sulfur. Nevada is strictly alkaline. But at this time, there's a lot of people that have legitimate concerns. And I would ask that maybe you consider another site just because of logistics of people that don't understand. I've worked my butt off to get Cyanco in here, and I think it's a hell of a benefit to the community. And I worked with mining all my life. I supported every mine as commissioner in Humboldt County. And I think that's the first thing you had to do was get Cyanco to cheapen the product up and make more of a profit. But an air class company to work for. But I feel that you have the ability to do this, but I think it would be preferable that you people looked at another site. That's all I can suggest, because as a county, it's basically out of our hands. It's the city, and don't be blaming the city because they didn't have this problem. Or this problem.
It's the overnight business we got last night is what I'm having.
Well, that could be an oversight because it has its own autonomy.
How many people had me go to their house that had no clue? Because I'm the one who literally went and told people because nobody knew about this meeting.
Didn't even know. That's so wrong. We have a sign right there. Use it.
There's so many people that don't know.
Later, because the city inherited this problem as a joint venture between the city and the county. One bit tomorrow, this with it, as we started, it was just the county, and then we turned to city, and then there's all whose options getting bored, and so we just turned it over to the city to manage it, but simpler that way. And it's an oversight, you might say, that you don't think about. Everybody out there is county. You don't want to bring the city limits out there, so you better hope you are county, stay county. That's all I have to, I'd ask you, maybe consider another site. Yeah. I appreciate what you've done. You've been forthright there.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name's Danny Gay, and first of all, I got to congratulate this man for putting powdered sugar on a turd because he did a wonderful job. Very good. Most of those chemicals that you had on the board there, I worked for PG&E my younger life for quite a few years around sulfuric acid, muriatic acid, caustic soda. And you're right, there's such a little bit in home chemicals, but is that home chemical stuff going to be what you have stored and working with? Or is it going to be the real deal that I had to put on zoot suits, rubber boots, full face respirator, the whole 9 yards? And like I said, you're pushing this stuff off like it's just, home chemical? Absolutely not. This stuff will burn you to death and instantly. I worked with it all my life, and it's just, the way you did that was just so wrong. And then
Agreed.
You sort of remind me of I used to have rentals, and you really remind me of a tenant that really wanted to get in a rental and would say anything to get in. And I have a hard time with that. I'm upfront, honest, and like I said, to have this last night handed on us at 5 o'clock at night for a meeting the next day is just completely wrong. There's a sign down there at where you hang a right to Walmart. Use it for this kind of stuff. My God, let the people know. It's like you guys are hiding back here, hiding stuff. Where do you put it at? I don't.
We post our meetings.
Where?
By law, we're required to post it.
Where?
At the post office, here, the library.
Really?
You put it in the newspaper so people can get it.
We use the
We
sign.
do have it online,
We use that sign.
We're fulfilling the requirement of the state.
I understand that, but fulfill the requirements of the people in your area and take care of us. Let us know what's going on in this place, because without knowing, this pisses me off to come out, find it at 5 o'clock at night last night, to come down here the next day. I didn't even have time to prepare.
As a citizen, you have some responsibility. Normally, we have nobody in here when we
That's
post our
why
meeting.
you don't put it anywhere.
We do.
Fine.
I mean,
You guys can make that decision, but I'm good.
as a citizen, you should take more, and I'm glad to see
I did take
people here.
more.
Take more involvement in your
Why don't you
community.
take more environment and put it out there? Do your jobs. Put it out there so the people can see what's going on. There's a sign on both ends of the town. Use them.
Next.
Dorothy, resident of the county out in that area. I thought you did a pretty good presentation. I got 42 years in mining, but I gotta agree with them. I also know what a rail car full of caustic soda will do. I know how they handle it when it's dumped on the highway. I agree, this is a first step, and I'm not for or against it at this point. Hopefully you people working with county commissioners will look at this. There needs to be traffic, needs to be reviewed. Are you going to do a truck pull off so that we're not all sitting behind a truck trying to make a turn somewhere? What is your chemical response? Such as Sanko. I remember when that came in, we used a lot of cyanide. We were kind of excited about it, but they held them accountable for doing it well. Okay. And they do an excellent job out there. To me, that's a lot of the key is if this does or doesn't come in, a lot of these chemicals, like you said, the mines use most everything on there in big quantities and do it fairly safely. But I also agree with people out there 100% that if you spill some quicklime or whatever and a dust devil comes through or whatever, is it 100% containment, 100% dust free? It can be, but it's a lot of work and a lot of money and a lot of effort. Are you going to come in and train our local county and city fire department? What happens if you're talking about, the rail cars? Let's say you got 13 rail cars sitting there, or whatever, at any state of unload or load, and sulfur tank catches on fire. The smell's an issue, but what kind of a fire? Are people going to be trained? Are we going to have the resources to handle that before it then gets into caustic soda or some of the other stuff? And that's the plan that I think a lot of people here are asking for, which you aren't going to do until the city council looks at this. What we prepared last night as we were kind of hearing about this was just 19 basic questions. Some are for the company, about the company. Some are for you guys to look into at this that we would trust going forward, that you guys put due diligence, not just money as we're going through with this water system crap with our county people. You guys have a job to represent the people in this community, and more business, more jobs is great. Killing people, livestock, animals, or having a system put in that doesn't work as well as it could or should, that is a concern. So I would, at this point, rather than beat all of this to death, a lot of this stuff's been brought up, we'll just give you this list. Manager, and I've got a couple more. Some of them are questions for Tom. And then just the comment that as it rolls forward, let's go out to the school at the community and talk with people out there. You blindside people like this. This is what you're going to get. A lot of fear and everything else. Can we do it without a problem? Well, we put men on the moon and everything else. I think we probably can. But am I going to sign off as a resident out there if it's not done safe or whatever? Absolutely not. There's got to be promises. Are you going to have a good neighbor policy, which is something a lot of companies don't want to do because then they're held accountable? Yeah, we've got NDEP, EPA, and all these other groups, but they're on a big global deal. I dealt with them at the mines and stuff. They'll pick something stupid, beat it to death, and then let 10 other things by the wayside. I think going forward, those are the kind of questions that we would hope that you guys will ask looking at this. And if it takes a next step, Tom, you guys come out to the communities and, show us. This stuff is good, but we all know, like they said, the household chemicals, yes, if it's in the US and the world, if it's not grown, it's got to be mined. Okay. And for that, where lithium goes, the whole electric battery, I think all of us have our different opinions. It may have its time, but it ain't right now. But if it's good for the community to mine something, I'm not against it. But, realistically, 2 or 3 rail cars of caustic soda, something gets breached and dumped down in and stuff. It's just like the cyanide, like Sanko, what kind of you guys did. And there's been a truck or 2 that got hit and how you had to respond. That's what I think the people here want to know and see. Not that you're just going to put this there and it's going to become another pain in the butt eyesore or a health hazard. Because I live out there as well. And all my neighbors want to know that. So,
like Sanko, we would expect them to be that kind of a
Yeah, I don't know much about the company, doing a little bit of research now and everything on them and ownership. And there's some of those questions in there. And like I said, I've got more copies to share with Tom. Because going forward, it's the kind of stuff people want to know. We are not on data with lithium, but we want to know because that's in our community. You're right, one of my favorite hunting fishing spots. And if it's good for the world and community and stuff, okay, take it. If not, I wouldn't be that supportive of a big lithium mine right there either. So that's a different issue, but it's not for you, but it will be for you guys. So
Sanko has set a high bar, haven't they?
they definitely have. And I know a lot of the people, Steve Cochran and those guys that work there, John Todd from the beginning and the start of that company, have nothing but respect for the job they've done. And that's what happens though, because I think Sanko came to the community and stepped straight forward up and was honest about it and got their ass handed to them a couple of times and they were held accountable. So hopefully you folks will do the same. And as the one gentleman brought up, remember, this is a bigger effect, way bigger effect on the county than it is county people than it is cities.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hoss there, and I appreciate that as well.
Even though most of you are residents of the county, we consider us one big community. So, we appreciate because you guys shop here, you buy things here, you come to the city, you work here. I mean, I consider all of us in the county one big
Stake in the
community.
city
So
and vice versa.
next,
I'd also like to ask, who's going to be responsible and pay? I live past Airport Road, and I'm not for or against this. I'm only half a mile, at the very most, away from where this is happening. But I want to know who's going to pay for the infrastructure on the road. If you travel out past Airport Road on out Rose Creek Road, I've owned property for over 30 years, and I cannot tell you how many times that intersection at Airport and Rose Creek, especially when we've had railroads derail and stuff, how dangerous that is. I've had to ditch my truck a couple times because people just drive out there. They don't look, they don't whatever. People turn at the last minute, and that's just life. That's dealing with it. But when you're adding the extra trucks, and like somebody said, is there going to be a pullover lane for them? Is there going to be, how are you going to manage that intersection? And then the intersection at the bottom of the yellow one to Winnemucca at the boulevard. Those are two really bad traffic areas and intersections to add more pressure on. So is the county gonna step up and fix those and make those safe? Is the company gonna put money into making those more workable? I mean, we see in Winnemucca, we have one four-way stop sign and people crash there all the time. It's the most popular place to crash.
And can I make a comment?
yes, sir.
Because I do appreciate that in many ways. I will say that, we haven't gone too far in this process yet because really we have to
We
wait to
haven't
see
made the decision.
if there's a decision made, even to start the process.
Right, but all that's got to be
But
figured in.
if and when that is done, absolutely, Lithium Nevada as a company would be responsible in many ways for doing that. We're already committing, and in fact, the work should be done in the second quarter of this year, up at Oro Nevada, putting in acceleration and deceleration lanes, turn lanes at a cost of almost $1 million. You probably know that Q&D Construction is out there resurfacing that whole road right there. They're going to do that work as they pass through there, probably in April or May of this year. There's another about $3 million worth of road work that we'll be doing out at the entrances to Thacker Pass to make sure that the roadway there has the proper acceleration, deceleration, and turn lanes, et cetera. We would not intend to stop there. We want to be good community corporate citizens. Absolutely. We would do whatever is necessary to make sure that the routes that are taken, and there are a number of routes that you can take, are safe, that the roads are properly designed, that the turn lanes that they need to be extra turn lanes put in, et cetera, are all taken care of. And that would be our responsibility. Yes.
And all of 95 where it's so bad, I mean, so many people are killed out there on.
Yeah, there's not much
A lot
that,
of traffic.
there's not much that we can do about a state. I mean, that's a US 95, a US highway like that. The only thing I can say there is, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, I've You've lived here long enough to know how many trucks go up and down there.
And put another 100 on there.
Yeah, well, that's a number that seems to have found a
Well,
good
okay.
niche, but 39 a day. Yeah.
First 4 months.
Any other comments?
Hi, my background, I'm Catherine Ballestero. My background's in audiology, working with the hearing impaired. My big question is, this whole package that you're presenting is huge. It's just not your plan. We're talking about railroad. Where's the railroad people? Aren't they gonna come in and say the noise of the trains clanking together, the boxes? There's a lot of noise involved here. The decibels are horrendous. You may say, we're only gonna work 12-hour days, 12-hour shifts. If you look at our community, the majority of the community here are minors. And look at their shifts. They work, I don't know, I'm not a minor, but you know, my husband would sleep in the day 1 week and then the night next week. The noise level, I was always concerned about noise level, keeping the house quiet when he's sleeping. Now we're retired, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. But there's a lot of people out there that work for the mines, and husbands, the noise level, the wives are always having the noise level. Keep the noise level down because daddy's asleep. He has to go work for 15 hours tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. But the trains, where's the railroad people? They should be here to tell us that loop you made. You know, when trains clank together, you know how loud that is? The decibel noise is horrendous. You'll have to have a meter chart to tell you exactly how loud and how many times a day they clanked together. This picture is so big. It's not a small project. We're talking about lots of issues here. And my issue is just because my background's in hearing. So that's what I'm gonna put my input in. I don't know anything about the chemicals. I know chemicals are bad. I don't know anything about air pollution, but noise pollution, yes, I do. And it can be very horrendous. But the railroad people should be here to tell us, okay, when they make the railroad, this is how much noise that when the cars clank together, how many times a day, and how many cars are clanking together, how many hours in a day. Because if you were to, I live out there, and the trailer factory,
Right.
we hear them when they do something awful loud. I have no idea what it is, but we hear it loud and clear. And so I'm telling you, railroads, anything to do with and then the semi trucks, holy cow, 49 of them? 39? What fire? Oh, yeah, when the factory had the fire out there. The explosion.
Yeah, may I make a comment? Thank you very much for that. I do appreciate
Yeah,
that.
I have no background in chemicals,
Yeah.
but noise I do.
Thank you, because I'm gonna need hearing aids before long myself. But 2 comments. I did not want to leave a misimpression when I said, for example, at 12 hours a day, we think we can start up that way. I'm not making a promise that was for illustration purposes. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. But as far as the railroad is concerned, we've had numerous conversations with the railroad. Obviously, we have to if we're going to have a mainline turnout, which is a very big deal. But really at this stage where we're only asking the city council whether we can even proceed with this as a possibility, didn't seem like the right time to bring the railroad out. We're trying to purposely keep this right now, not hiding anything, but a minimum amount of information that we can put into a little city council meeting like this, a brief one, and to enable you to make a decision about even beginning the process to move forward. But that is an excellent point.
And I
And I
would really
appreciate it.
encourage everyone here on the board, the staff. We were just notified last night also about this happening. If it wasn't for our neighbor, and then we contacted other people to see if they had heard about it, and then they had not heard about it. So, and we don't know what's going on. We don't know, but as I'm sitting here and I'm listening to your proposal, which is fantastic, actually, I'm a real believer in businesses and providing jobs. But I really am a family person and I don't know how many homes are out there, but I know back at that side of the airport, there's a lot of homes with families.
Thank
And I
you.
am not again.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah, my name's John Kennison. See, you were talking about the sulfur hydrox, and that's dry.
Sulfur what?
Sulfur hydrox is dry. And if that catches fire, the only way to put it out is to smother. When you bring liquid in, you add these acids. That acid eats through the rock, it puts that sulfur in our water. And the liquid sulfur might not make it, but with the acid it does. They had a thing up in Idaho, they had to drill a well. It contaminated all their water because the acid chemicals get in our water. So if you have a spill, even though you're going by all your precautions, everybody has a spill. Who's going to fix my water system when you destroy it?
Well, the acid won't be at the transloading. The acid, sulfuric acid will be, my understanding, mixed up north.
Mix it in the trucks and they ship it from the site.
Just the sulfur.
But it's
No,
liquid form, so
they're
it's
mixing all of it together, shipping it.
No, they're not.
Individually. Those all get into the heating process together or separate?
My understanding in conversations I've had is this is just transloading. It's taking these, shipping them separate up to the plant and mixing the sulfuric acid on the location.
So just to be clear, sulfur is what is used to make sulfuric acid. There will be no sulfuric acid here. The sulfur comes through here, goes up the Thacker Pass, where it's converted to sulfuric acid, which is used on site and consumed on site. None comes or goes.
So it will not be at the transloading.
It will,
Sulfuric acid.
it will be at the trans, but it will not be mixed with the other chemicals. He will ship them all separately, but they all will be at the trans.
Yeah, but it will not be sulfuric acid.
The other thing is, you've seen the accident we have on 95 already?
Yeah.
There's got to be 2 lanes going each way.
Yep.
Because the amount of people are getting killed up there is ridiculous.
Well, I agree with you that that's been an ongoing problem this year that NDOT needs to address.
And all that stuff going through the middle of Winnemucca, it's uncalled for. There's nothing wrong with that intersection where Cyanco and Transwood is probably going to be their hauler. So they're going to be going through there anyway, just to go there, then they're going to come right back up through there. So over there is the best place because you already have, like you said, you bring Cyanco in, it needs to be next to Cyanco. That's where these chemicals are. They need to stay there.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
Because
perfect.
over here is for welding, for warehousing, stuff like that. Because all of our wind comes this way. If they have something that leaks, it goes into our town. That means you'll get to smell it. Everybody in here gets to deal with it. The way the wind blows.
Yep, it'll come right to you.
And everybody in this room and in this town, if they happen to have something that goes wrong, does our hospital big enough to handle everybody?
No.
Or to take care of kids?
No.
Do it as a.
They can't.
No, they can't. I already lost one here.
It's all good until it's not.
Next.
Can you guys hear people on video conference?
You were gone.
Yeah, I don't remember
Somebody on the video.
Oh,
Yeah, can you guys hear video conference people?
can we turn the volume up?
This is Felicia Richardson. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and speak. I just had some personal stuff because I live at 7400 Pine Road. We just recently made the decision to move out here. And if you look on the maps, this plant is going to sit directly across the railroad from where I'm currently living. And the huge part of why we made the decision to move out here is because I have a lot of rare medical conditions. So one of my questions is, being a part of the community and wanting to, this plant, wanting to be a part of the community or however that works, like how many people in this area that you say it won't affect because of chemicals, because of this, because it's properly taken care of, because we all know the fine lines of how that stuff really works. how many people around this area do you know are sick or have illnesses or major conditions that, like I have rare stuff. I have stuff that they are still trying to figure out because it hits my neurological side, my nervous system. So putting all this in here, I came out here for peace, no lights, get away from the city, get away from the sound, because there's things that are going on that I don't even fully understand yet. I don't want to be around, out and around stuff like this where I have to constantly be worrying about how further it's going to affect me or people in my community, because don't need to get into all the COVID stuff, but we have enough health issues and current health things that are really creating a problem with people. And people, I feel, don't truly focus on that side of things of what this is. This is too close to a community to me. This is way too close to me when I came out here to get away from lights and sound to try to focus on my health and to try to really get myself better. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Can you pull up the map a second? Because that's my daughter. I'll show you what she's talking about.
Let me, well, I'll pull up what's in the presentation, but I can probably pull up a better map as well.
The gal that was speaking about sound and understanding decibels and everything, that really is a huge thing, not just for minors, but
See the western parcel they're talking about? See Pine Road? Right across that railroad track is my property line, right exactly across from the western parcel. My property line goes up to the railroad right of way. And that's where my daughter lives right now.
Okay, thank you.
yes, just health concerns of the community. Like I'm just curious about how much research is done into that and how much is gonna, because again, we just got this paperwork the other night by a neighbor that was driving around on side by side to let us know what was going on. Nothing in the mail. I know we can look online, and I know you guys try really hard to put stuff out there for people, and I know how hard that can be. So just questions. I know this is the very start of all this, but health is a really, really, really important thing. You might not think that it's going to affect people. You might think that you're taking all the serious precautions, but it goes so much deeper than that. And I appreciate you guys just listening to me and hearing that out for a minute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Hi, I'm Joanne. I live out on Rose Creek Road. I just have a couple questions. With your involvement with Cyanco, in comparison to Cyanco's building, I know you said something about the square footage, but like how big? Because we all live out there, we see Cyanco, so I'm one of those people that, you know, don't show me a dime. Like I need to see the dime, not the 10 cents. So in comparison to Cyanco, how big are y'all thinking?
You know, the new building that was constructed out there 2 years ago, the tall blue and white building?
On the airport side or at Cyanco?
Cyanco.
Yes.
The total number of buildings, square footage that would be built as part of this project here would be less than that single building, and that would form into several buildings, an administrative building, a trucker's lounge, and a utilities building. But all of those put together would be less than that one large building.
Okay, and then you said silos as well, so other outbuildings or?
Yeah, a silo for the soda ash, correct.
And then I'm on well water. So on this piece of property, is there city utilities there? Is it natural gas or city water, or is that a well?
There is natural gas and city water available at the airport right now. We haven't decided whether to use that or whether to utilize a small well. The water usage at this particular transload terminal is very minimal.
Unless possibly there's.
Just a clarification on the water system at the airport is Gold Country Water, which is going to be sold to the county. It is not a city-owned water system at the airport, but it's a municipal water system.
Some of these things, I mean, we're so early in this process, they probably haven't even thought about.
Right, well, I mean, I'm just, because I'm growth and expansion is great, you know, and this is the thing that we're all very emotionally charged because this is our backyard. Literally, it's mine. I mean, I'm next to me. I'm here, you know, and I'm just not we haven't gotten that far, but that's what we're thinking because let's face it, money is money. And y'all have the money to purchase this and help the assist of the other companies that want to use that rail. They're not there because they didn't have the money to do it. So nobody's foolish in this building. If y'all have the money, city's probably gonna say, okay. And that just puts us where, we have our concerns. We have our concerns.
Yeah.
And that's just what we're addressing now, because like, I can speak for myself. I'm riled up because I didn't even hear about this until
None of the
Sunday. So then I'm like, what's happening?
And how long?
And we all know that we tend to deal with things a little better when we know about it a little more. The construction of the building. Yeah, I know that operations, if it's there, is gonna be, you said possibly 12-hour shifts or whatever, but it's gonna be, during the construction time, loud and lots of traffic, and that's something that we need to consider as well.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Just, I'm a Grass Valley, Grass Valley resident. You said that you had you'd looked at many sites in the area, but you decided on this one, but you didn't explain what it is about that site that appeals to you. You made no mention of that. I just would like to sit there and say that I stand with Mr. Tebow, that I think you guys should board to consider putting them in another site. There's plenty of options. You guys consider the out on the north side of the river, and you could cut a road, hit sand paths, and avoid that whole section that you're talking about that disturbs you. So that's an option. There's other options.
Thank you. Mr. Haas?
Mr. Mayor. Listening to all this, and have any of you ever read that early? This one I can do. Now, he comes to us proposing this at 39 trucks, but every 5 years it can increase, in 46 years. And that's in the plan. I've read the plan through it. So we're not starting out with just a little bit. I will have to agree with Tebow also. You wouldn't have them here if you put it out somewhere else where it's not going to affect the residents. And I can't see where there isn't going to be some smells and different stuff that comes out of there that's going to affect all. So I live within a quarter mile. And I've known this for a long time. They want to come in, they want to use Airport Road, they want to use Rose Creek, they want to use freeways. They can legally do that, but do they want to help us and maintain those? No, we don't. They've come in here and said, well, and they're very good at what they do. Now, whether or not the lithium is needed, that's up to any individuals on what they think. But I do know that this is not a good area for this to be. Find another area. Now, if they do it there at the airport, well, they got city water already, and they got roads already, and they got all of this. They don't have to do that. But if they go out like Sanko did, they would have to do all that, and they're not willing to do it. They've shown that. So this is a very, very important thing. And not only is this sulfur offloading and chemical offloading affecting us here, but it also has to do with Thacker Pass. Now, this is supposedly going to be one of the largest hydraulic or sulfuric acid plants in the world. Definitely in the United States. They're not going to need that acid. And I've already asked this outlet, what are you going to do with the other stuff? Well, we're going to sell it. So what are we going to do with the other trucks that are coming down there with sulfuric acid that they've created? Nobody talks about this, and it needs to be talked through. It's very, very important to the people. And it's bigger than life. I mean, these guys want to come in and do something like this, but they don't want to do it without affecting us. Tom was very honest with us. He moved here. He goes out there
If I put it on just my audio, you can't hear anything, Will.
No, I'm just curious what
Tom was very honest with us when he came here. He went out to the road and he turned the lights off and he sees all these stars, all of I've probably never seen anything like that. We have that here and we want to keep it. And this is going to pollute, it's going to cause problems with the water. We have no extra water, so we're going to get water for the plant up. Everything is allotted right now. I have an idea how it's going to happen, but why don't you tell us how it's going to happen? You just going to hook on the city, or are you going to do your own, or you going to wash trucks out there? Another thing that you said was your partners. And they said that there will be possibility of other partners. Why? What would you be bringing in to that piece of property that you're out there that you're renting or you're buying? Why can't you be completely transparent? Is there other people or other partners involved or needed to be involved to do this? Then what would you propose later? I don't want to get started on this thing and then turn around 5 years from now and say, well, we're going to bring in this, we're going to bring in that, and have to go through this whole process again. So I've asked, to be transparent about it and tell us what the full course of things. Now there's FAA was asked to look at that area there, and we haven't got any word about that. So that's another thing that you need to look at also when you're doing that, and whether or not the FAA is going to allow it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Any other comments? Yes? There will be a little storage out there, but most of it will be transported up to the mine site.
I don't, but I know it.
It'll all be enclosed. It will not be rained on. It won't be exposed to the weather. I would say close to zero because it's enclosed. So you would not get any rain on it. So
Furthermore, sulfur does not produce sulfur or acid rain. It's other chemicals that are way up in where the clouds are. That's why you don't have acid rain in nature when you have vast quantities of native sulfur on the ground. It does not impact sulfur in the atmosphere or acid rain.
Thank you. If we had an emergency situation, that would be the county emergency management team would respond to that. I'm feeling that they will be as responsible with their operation as Cyanco is. And, very little issues, to my knowledge, has happened there. If something did happen, we would definitely have to respond to it. Not only ourselves, but the company would have to take some responsibility. But, these are all what ifs that we're talking about now. And I think right now we're just trying to decide whether we're going to entertain the option of selling the land or not. I mean, that decision, we're not deciding here that we're definitely doing it. We're going to open the process, and there's a lot of avenues between now and the end where we can change direction, change our mind. They may change their mind, depending on what we require of them. So. And I think that would be all in the planning. Once they've decided they're going to purchase it, we've decided we're going to sell it to them. We will have, they'll have building requirements, inspections, and things like that. So, I mean, that's down the road.
That's too late. You don't do that when you start.
Before they could go into operation, they're going to have to pass all their permitting and have the inspections.
To know this before, what they're gonna do, what their protocols are before you approve them to buy that property.
We haven't improved it, and we're not improving it today.
Dude, that's what we're saying.
Because you just said.
Okay. We're gonna move on next. Yes?
I was standing out in the hallway, so I did not get the beginning of the meeting. There's no speaker out there, so I apologize if this has already been addressed. But my question I have questions. Addressing the city hall, is this meeting recorded?
Yes.
And will it be published on your website?
The recording is available by law, so anybody can request a recording of this meeting.
How do you get them?
You contact the city clerk's office. She's sitting right in front of you. Just contact that office and a recording can be made. And there's no.
So each person
who asks for recording can get a recording. There's no charge for the recording.
Okay, so it's not public. Okay.
It is public.
It is public.
It is. No, but I mean, you have to. It's not public. You have to individually ask for it. You're going to get like 100 phone calls to ask for it, right? Okay. Okay. Another question is, so are you deciding today whether or not to consider this sale or lease? Are you making
We're considering whether we're going to go forward with the process.
Are you making a decision today?
We will make a decision whether we want to entertain the ability to sell or lease it. We're not making the final decision to sell or lease it. What we'll do is direct staff to initiate the process, to get appraisals and go through the process, which will take 3 to 6 months.
And it has been brought up that different locations suggest that now in that case, it would go into the county. Therefore, it'd be out of your hands in the counties.
If that's the location they chose, that's not our decision. That would be their decision.
Right. Right. Does anybody else have any influence on the decision of whether it's in the city's hands or in the county's hands?
The decision is whether we decide to go forward, that would be our decision. If we decide down the road that we're not going to go forward with this, they'd have to find another location.
Okay. And what is the route that you, I couldn't see all the slides. So what is the route, the transportation route from the site, the siting or whatever, to Thacker? Driving route. Like, are they gonna go through town, around town?
So you're asking about to magnify that bottom section right there near
Magnify the
Winnemucca,
bottom
right?
section.
Yeah, there are probably 4 different possible routes to get to 95 North from this particular location by the airport. And I didn't, it probably is not in the scope of this meeting to start delving into routes like that. We'd be happy to work with everybody to pick the best route or alternate routes, et cetera, if you decide to move forward with the process.
There's only 2. There's Rhino Road and right through the middle of Winnemucca.
Well, Rhino goes there.
They get right on the highway. Yes.
So if people are opposing the Reinhardt Road because there's more subdivision housing and stuff, and you go through town, which is going to be a lot of opposition there, would you be willing to build a whole new freeway entrance and route and roads? No, that's why they picked that site.
Again, the exact route to take and is something that if we decide to move forward with the process that we could look at more in detail.
I just suggest that.
I mean, we would want all that information before everything's finalized. I mean, this is really preliminary.
Al Larson, I live on Rose Creek. I think we're dealing with the worst possible piece of property for this situation. Because 99% of the people within 5 miles are county residents, not city residents. City is covering all this process. I think you guys should call the county and have big feast on it about what we need. Because you should not be doing this alone.
We don't tell the county what to do in their jurisdiction.
Richard, this is.
We can't vote on your county. We cannot vote for the mayor. What about this?
Let Al talk.
No, we need to have an amalgamation of both units. The city and the county should be working together on it. I mean, I know you can't tell them what to do. They can't tell you what to do. By the way, Rose Creek out there is a state highway. Okay? And Airport Road is the worst intersection I've ever seen. I can't even get to the mailbox without stopping 40 yards short, but that's a different point. But I think we need a larger group of people with both places, the city and the county, working together before there's any decision.
Thank you.
I have a question. The city or the county?
City owns and operates the airport.
Yeah, it's owned by the city. That's why we're dealing with this issue right here. That piece of property is owned by the city, but it's not in the city limits. It's in the county. But it's owned by the city.
Okay.
So.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name's Dan Thompson. I'm a resident in the local area. And I would just like to address the city council on this. I think I think it's the absolute worst place that you could put this thing. You put it right on the edge of some residential homes, and we don't want it. I don't want it. And if you were living next door, you wouldn't want it. And that's just the facts. I think it needs to be moved somewhere else that would affect, get it out of the residential community and put it more in a rural setting. And you wouldn't have all these complaints right now in front of you.
That's why we didn't have the.
And that's all I really have to say. I think it's the absolute worst place you could put it. Nobody out there wants it, and you wouldn't want it either.
Thank you, Jim. Any other comments?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is John Toland, and I'd just like to suggest a different location for this facility. Where I would propose putting it is Jungle Road and Bottle Creek. There's power available there, rail spur available there. You could use Bottle Creek Road to Highway 140, Highway 140 up to North Valley Road into Orvada, and then out to Thacker Pass, eliminating all of the traffic on US 95 and through Winnemucca.
Yes, yay, good job.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Just ask, is there any way you guys can notify us if you have other meetings on this particular thing? I mean, all of us obviously can.
You could request city council agenda from City Hall if you'd like.
Every week, every month,
Every time we have a meeting, usually every
months, you're
twice a month.
Sure, it'll be good, okay.
Yeah.
You would get it emailed to you directly. Mayor, could I make a comment, please?
Yes.
I can't speak for anybody else at this table, but I'd like to say a couple of things. First of all, I do understand your frustration at feeling like you were not notified. Sometimes the notification process is not perfect. We do it well within our legal boundaries, as the city attorney said. Does that mean you see all of it? No, I don't either. Sometimes if I'm not paying specific attention to a given agenda for any board in this town. So, we don't have a solution there, but you've heard that you can access it, and I hope that you will, okay? My other comment would be, when you're on this side of the table, sometimes there is frustration that all of the questions, and there's been some great ones today, okay, lots of them, cannot be answered until the process goes a little bit further. And so I just would ask as citizens that you understand that in order for us to glean more information, sometimes it has to go further on both sides for all of us to get the information until a final decision could be made.
The Jungle Road, the garbage dumps out there, and right down the same roads. But I have one quick question about, you said that they informed. So you live in the county, right? And you own property in the county, right? So why would we be watching the city's agenda when county is where we live? So when you're in our area, don't you think that you guys should do a little bit extra because you are in our area? We have no idea that you're going to be doing something like this in our area. So that statement right there that you said is wrong for us because we had no idea that you owned that property and you would do something like that. So we should have been informed a different way because we had no idea. You're city, we're county. We wouldn't look for you.
I do not disagree that you would not look for us, ma'am. I'm just saying lesson learned here on both sides, most likely. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
I think something to have the public feel like they're actually involved would be to propose some sort of like a town hall meeting and have it, on the radios, in the newspaper, posted publicly, and really make that effort to reach out so that there can be more information given and more people involved, because I can tell you there's so many neighbors I didn't get a hold of.
Well, I'll tell you that Lithium's been good neighbors and had several town hall meetings up in Orvada and things like that. This is just coming here. I mean, this is the first time, and we haven't even decided we're going forward or not. So I believe we can have more informed meetings as the process moves forward. So we can, I'm sure he's learned a lot, has a lot of concerns. I have, council has, so, these are all valid things, and I appreciate everybody bringing it to us. So. Yes, sir.
Paul Snell, I live just over the railroad tracks. Big concern with the fire and water. I think keeping that dust down, that's going to require a bunch of water. We really don't have water around. And then the question is, for the county, with Lithium Nevada as a whole, is there any estimated tax revenue?
You'd have to check with the county that city does not get any of the net proceeds of mining tax or anything like that. Anything done at the mine the city would not benefit from.
Yeah, the fire's definitely a big concern and the water.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any online? Not hearing or seeing any. We're going to close our public comment at this time. And we will move on.
Did I interject? I apologize, been late. Could you put an ad in the paper though, because I apologize, it's not the city's fault, this is inherited this mess because of, and the county and city property. But if you could put a little blurb in the paper, a lot of people don't read the paper, some do, or on the radio, it would be a good facilitator to.
I think if the process moves forward, we definitely will hold a public meeting to be more transparent on what's going on. And I'm sure Lithium will be very supportive of that.
Gotcha. Remove some anxiety.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. What we have now is the proposal to purchase or lease a 177.31 acre parcel at the airport industrial park for the proposed transloading terminal. We've had a lot of comments, a lot of good comments, a lot of concerns. This is early in the process. This is the decision for the council. My feeling is a transloading facility in our community has been strongly recommended through strategic planning and everything like that. But it's for the council to discuss further. Do you have any comments you want to make at this time? Further questions?
I think at this time, I don't have any further questions, but I want to agree with Councilwoman Mavity. I've been on this board for 8 years and on different boards for probably 25 years, and never in that time have I thought that an agenda item we try to sneak in. Never. And I've never been part of that. I can understand the frustration that you didn't know about that, but our legal responsibilities, as you've heard, can we do different? Yes, we will. As Ken said, Mayor said, and Teresa said, we will do different in the future. But as far as this being something that we wanted to sneak by, that I've never felt that way, nor would I be part of that decision. I also would like to clarify that this process has so many more steps involved in it. Our directive today, whether we have staff move forward with this, is one more step. And I think if anyone's gone to a city or county commissioner meeting, there are multiple steps where things can change, not just on our side of the table. I mean, Lithium can say, hey, we appreciate where you're going. We found a different location or something else can come up. So just remember, anything we say here or do at this point can change in the next 8 months, 6 months. So, and we need a lot more information. I appreciate, I certainly appreciate the comments and the information we still need that we'll get if we approve this, make the recommendation to go through with an appraisal and find out the value of it and what's best for us. I've been on the airport board for 8 years, and that regional park out there has always needed an offloading facility. And whether it's just Lithium or in 10 years, someone else comes in and says, Lithium, you just put in $1 million offload. How about we work on there too? We need industrial park businesses out there. And we, as a county city, aren't going to say, your business is good, your business is bad. I'm just not going to be part of that process. At this point, I would just say, let's see what that value is worth, what is the appraisal is, and see what information comes out of that.
Thank you. Any comments, Pam? Vince, do you have any comments you want to add?
Yeah, first of all, sorry I'm not there in person, but I think there's been a lot of awful good questions asked. And again, I have to agree with my fellow council people that this is just a part of the process. We've got to go through the process, find out what's best for the county people as well as what's best for that property right there. So I thank the people that are there and thank you for your questions. And I would like to see those 19 questions so that we can really look into that.
Alicia has those.
Yes. She'll distribute it to us. Okay, council.
I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve a resolution declaring our intent to possibly sell or lease the property after we get the first appraisal and move forward with the process.
We have a motion on the floor. Are there any further questions? Not seeing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes, so. Alicia, direct staff to go ahead and move forward with the process and see where we go. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
Appreciate all the comments,
Yeah.
input.
Another jungle man.
This time, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
You just said I have a. Well, if they change the zone. Well, that's the key, does. That's just the.
Is what? Do we want to take a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
Do that.
Not adjourn it.
Oh, we're starting. I'm ready to adjourn.
That was long. That was intense.
Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. Item 4, administration, fire systems inspection proposal. Request for authorization to enter into contracts for annual inspection of fire systems and fire extinguishers at various city locations. Alicia.
Currently, Delta Fire Systems does our inspections of various alarms and fire suppression systems, but we had a separate company that was doing the fire extinguishers. Having two different companies doing the different inspections was sometimes confusing. Sometimes inspections were being missed because they didn't know which one to call. So this proposal is to have Delta Fire Systems do all the extinguishers, all the alarms, all the suppression systems. So we have one company that we're calling to do all the inspections.
But not until spring. Is that how I should say later in the year?
Yeah, I believe the first ones, did it have spring? I know our extinguishers are in the fall, but it could be that the fire department's alarms may be in the springtime.
Something was starting earlier.
August 2023.
Okay, so
that's what I was remembering, August and September.
One of the things they had in there though was, do we have to, it says we have to assemble everything in one spot. Is that, do they do it that way or not?
That's for the fire extinguishers, and our public works prefers it that way because we have one in every vehicle. We have several throughout the building. So it's typically the street department that goes through, collects them all up, bring them to the armory, I believe, and then they do them all in one place.
I asked that question too. Tinny says that's be the easiest way to get it done.
Okay.
And be sure they're done properly.
Another thing is just to, you remember, I mean, the contract has a term. There's no dollar amount because they didn't know how many they were going to have. So you're not knowing how much money, but we've got a 30-day termination provision in there. So if you've noticed 30 days, you can terminate. So
once we see the number.
We've got a dollar amount per extinguisher, but we
don't know how many.
We don't know how many we have.
Right, the total.
We know a cost difference from what we currently have to the new provider as far as per extinguisher.
It's the same, roughly the same. The prior provider or current provider, I guess you would say, was for some extinguishers, it was $18.95, but for I believe 3 extinguishers at the police department, they were $25. And I don't know why those were different. So yeah, probably. Yeah. So we're going to from $18.95 for the majority, plus a few that are a little more expensive, to $19 for all.
Maybe bigger.
But May, those fire extinguishers are the ones in the back and wrap.
So they're larger. Okay, large.
Very.
Okay. Any other questions from her?
in your motion include the ability of the city manager to sign the agreement. So
The city manager?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I go ahead and make a motion to approve the Delphi Fire Systems proposal, thank you, contract, and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement.
Motion on the floor. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 5, administration, police department, vehicle donation request. Determination that the police department 2008 Ford Crown Victoria vehicle is no longer required for public use and authorized to donate the vehicle to Nevada Post Academy. You want to talk about this?
As you well know, but you might not know, the Nevada Post Academy provides training to the majority of all rural law enforcement, to include Nevada Fish and Game. And they operate on a limited budget, a very limited budget, and they count on the rural agencies for those types of donations. Equipment that we don't use all the time or whatever. For training purposes.
And the vehicle would be used, do we know for what purpose, like EVOC or something?
Yes, traffic stops, routine patrol, training, EVOC, and so on.
EVOC,
Emergency vehicle operation?
thank you.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we determine that there is no longer any required public use for the 2008 Ford Crown Vic, previously a part of our PD, and authorize, make the authorization to donate the vehicle to the Nevada Post Academy.
Motion on the floor. Any further question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 6, Administration, Public Works, Equipment Purchase Proposal. Proposal to purchase a Simline ME2 250-gallon mastic machine for filling large cracks on paved streets for the sum of $86,150.
I mentioned this mastic machine a couple months ago. Our street department tested this out. So this is the type of machine that's required to fill the larger cracks that are in our streets that you see mostly in the area near the high school and above the high school, as well as in the Offenhauser subdivision. So what our typical maintenance, we would just seal them with regular crack seal material. And then when a chip seal or slurry seal happens, it usually just sinks down into the crack. And this mastic material actually fills the crack, brings it back to the pavement surface level. And then when you do a chip seal or a slurry seal, you don't even have to do one right away, but that would be our plan, would be to use this mastic machine to fill those large cracks and then do a chip or slurry seal over the top. And it would prevent those cracks from reforming right through the seal material. We did not budget for this in this fiscal year. We do have funds available for the public works function in the capital improvement fund that could be used to purchase this machine. We have $150,000 that was allocated for more of a storm drain project, which we have not done, and we don't have the plans to use all $150,000. We also have $1 million in the public works function that was there for the downtown streetscape project, and ARPA funds will offset that expenditure even though we budget for the expenditure anyway. So it's $1 million that's been budgeted as an expenditure that's going to have an automatic augment using ARPA funds if spent in this fiscal year.
Normally purchases like this in this range requires you to get 2 proposals. You don't have to advertise you check 2 proposals. We cannot find anyone else that makes this particular machine. It's like a whole type of thing. So that's why there's only 1 proposal for you to consider.
My second question was, you used it. You've used it once and through 3 or 4 months?
Yes, the street department used it. It was before it got cold. I can't remember, maybe end of summer. At one of the intersections, I can't remember if it's Snowy Mountain, and it's in the Offenhauser subdivision somewhere. And it has performed well. It's still holding up at this point. We're still only a few months in, but it is still holding up.
That's great. I know I had spoke to the mayor and Alicia about those cracks multiple times over the last year, and I think this is a good way to spend this money and extend the life of some of our streets without doing a whole lot more than a chip seal. And if this extends in 5 or 10 years, I think that's a big gap. I know that 5 years or more, then I'm all for this type of expenditure.
And this won't stretch our public works budget?
We will, if approved, it will be purchased out of the capital improvement fund, and it will not result in any type of budget violation or anything. We will still be within budget, though it wasn't budgeted for this specific purpose.
But because of all the, say, mixing around.
Yeah.
The timing can work successfully.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, Can we get it in a year?
Well, that was the first question we asked because we thought if we ordered it now, we might not get it until the next fiscal year anyway. They say that it was 4 to 6 weeks, I think. So we do expect to get it in this fiscal year. But if not, we will budget for it appropriately in the next fiscal year.
But we'll be waiting to
I
hear how
know.
that time.
Yeah.
It can be a race between a snowplow.
It would be really nice to get it this spring so they can use it in the spring and summer. It would be great to get it this spring.
Well, I go ahead and make a motion to approve this, the equipment request from Simline in the amount of $86,150 per staff recommendation.
Motion on the floor. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Could use that up front of my place.
Item 7, administration, 2023 legislative session. Staff requests for direction regarding the 2023 legislative session and specific topics that should be addressed to the legislature members, Ira Hansen, Alexis Hansen, and Tronda Summer Armstrong, who are coming to visit on January 24th. We've been invited to have a joint meeting with the county and discuss legislative issues. Alicia and I have talked, we're thinking if we decide issues, her and myself could go to that county commission meeting and present what we are. If you guys want to have a joint meeting, we can always take that approach. But if you have anything that you can think of that needs to be addressed in this legislative session, as we all know, the last legislative session was kind of top secret. They did whatever they wanted.
Yes,
Well,
We couldn't attend.
I don't think you can expect much different because it's single party control, so it'd be a laptop.
So you'd like these ideas between now and, I mean, I agree with you. I think I'd be happy to give you any ideas and maybe but not a meeting.
Some of the ideas is maybe address the CDL licensees for public works people, not having the full CDL, but having one that allows them to plow our streets and drive the back truck and things like that. They're not doing long hauls or things like that. That's something that she's brought up. We all are unhappy with the legislature decriminalizing so many things, bail reform and things like that. So.
And public works projects. I know that we always talk, I know you're going to laugh, but I mean, at least we can ask. I know, how about if that's a side that's going to say,
Dialing back in the last, 40 years, I think it makes sense to ask and keep asking. I mean, obviously, you're extremely outnumbered because the number of members of the unions outnumbers the number of voters in the rural counties. And so going to get traction that way. But it does bear asking because when they raised the threshold from $100,000 to $250,000, it actually allowed these jurisdictions to do, a lot more projects that didn't come under that prevailing wage. And we've tracked this over the years numerous times. That represents a savings of about 35% on average. So taxpayers pay 35% more for a prevailing wage project than they do for a non-prevailing wage project because of the difference in the wages. Exactly. And so I think it impacts, the smaller counties and the smaller cities and stuff more so than it does the larger ones because that's a huge part of our budget is the capital improvements, which should all come with the prevailing wage, and we simply can't.
Yeah,
we can't do capital improvement projects if we're paying so much money.
But I would say I will get with you or Alicia. That would be probably be my number one thing is prevailing wages and decriminalizing. I guess it's hard to categorize them, but
we've got a little bit of time before that meeting. If you guys want to think it through and bring them to Alicia. And then we can go and.
We can go on the.
Thank you.
Also, on the 24th, though, I do believe the Hansons and Summers Armstrong, I do believe they plan on coming here to speak during public comment during our meeting. The joint meeting they proposed was at 10 a.m.
Okay.
So there is going to be a joint meeting or no?
No.
Well, there's going to be a meeting, but
Not
it won't be joint with the city. It can be joint with some other.
They're planning on meeting with the hospital and school district and all that also, so. Next on our agenda, item 8, administration, mayor pro tem appointments. Proposal to designate and appoint council members to serve as mayor pro tem for the 2023, 2024, 2025, and 2026 years. I believe that has to be done by resolution.
Yeah, that's how we've done in the past.
And we did it 4 years ago for the first time. And I believe we've got. I can find mine. I believe we've got Vince being 2023. Ken sent that resolution.
Yeah, Mike in 2024, and then Pam 2025, and Ashley.
And that falls into the same.
Actually, no, not for me, because my term ends in 24. So 25 is assuming that I would get reelected if I ran.
That's what we're assuming. If you run.
If I ran.
If not, we can adjust that.
Are you elected?
20. So 25 is outside my term limit.
Do we want to go there or do we want to shift that a little? I mean, if she's not sure she's running or be elected, Mike will be 2024.
She and Vince are the same term though, right?
So yes, if they
So
switch, it's the same thing.
Yeah, somebody's gonna be, we're
Vince-
chancing somebody, right?
Vince,
Yes, and I'm fine for the chance.
Vince is 2023 now, this year.
I know, but I'm just saying, even if you, no matter how you.
3 people with 2 years left.
Yeah, so no matter how you shift it, right? There's gonna be somebody that we're.
And I'm fine. I'll be that wild card.
To run again if you want.
How important is more mayor pro tem to you?
Fun on that.
I was just, wanted to point out I may not be here. That's fine. I'll take the wild card.
I'd go ahead. Do you want a motion, Mayor?
Yeah.
A motion to accept the resolution to assign the mayor pro temps per
The document. the city
staff
provided.
recommendation.
Have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda, item 5, administration, board committee appointment, assignment. Appointments, reappointments, and assignments of mayor and city council members to boards and committees. Okay, we have that in the agenda there. Alicia and I talked this over. I think we feel pretty comfortable with it. We tried to lighten Vince's load a little bit. The vacancy for WCBA, I guess, is an appointment by the mayor and confirmed by the council. And we decided that Teresa Mavity should be the WCBA representative. And I would like to appoint her, that the council wants to confirm that.
Just for all of the one.
This is just for the one position right now.
That's the only one that has to be.
It's the only one that has to be appointed and confirmed by the council. Need a motion?
I make a motion to confirm Teresa Navity appointment to the WCBA council for mayor recommendation.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mayor, I do apologize. I do have to leave at this time.
Oh, yeah, get your job in order.
Thank you.
All the other appointments you got in your agenda, if you have any questions or anything. One thing I did want to bring up is the landfill committee. We're putting you on it, but you're on it too, not as an alternative, but as a regular member of the.
Okay, fair enough.
And talking to Ashley, she had thought that you were thinking you were just an alternative.
I did think I was an alternative.
You're a regular member. So start showing up to the meetings.
All right.
Okay.
Personal committee.
Any other questions about the appointments, assignments?
I'm still looking. I just found it. It's good to me.
Thank you.
City.
We expect reports.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you.
Remind me.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to confirm the board committee appointments and assignments of the mayor and city council members to boards and committees as presented by mayor and staff.
Motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll move on to administration, American Rescue Fund update and proposals for use of American Rescue Plan Act funds. Do we have any updates?
The quarterly report is due at the end of this month. I have started pulling my numbers together because the month of December is closed now. So for ARPA expenditures in this quarter, I have about 440,000 in water and sewer projects. That includes Tank 1C and Hardgrave Lane. And then I have about 1.5 million in general government services, which is the transfer where we are using ARPA funds for general government services. And I come up with that number by taking the salaries and benefits of all employees within the general fund. So total expenditures for this quarter are right around 2 million. Our prior ARPA expenditures were just over 2.5 million. So we're sitting at about 4.5 million total ARPA expenditures.
When you say this quarter, do you mean Q4?
I mean, yeah, October through December of 2022. That's it.
Any other questions? Next on the agenda, administration, Boat Howard Memorial Pool, New Aquatic Center. Proposal studies and reports for developing a plan for abandoning the existing Boat Howard Memorial Pool and options for funding and developing a new aquatic center. Where are we on our RFPs?
The RFP has been distributed to design firms. That it was distributed to 13 aquatic design and or architecture firms. One has already responded that they do not plan to submit a proposal. One has already responded that they have. We do ask them to submit an intent to respond form just 2 days before the proposal due date. So I might know some more at the next city council meeting on who plans to submit a proposal, but hoping to receive at least a few.
What was the date on?
They are due January 27th by 3 p.m.
Oh, and our meeting is at January 24th.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions ever? We'll move on. Staff and council reports. Michelle?
No new updates on the Well 8 or East Side Curb and Gutter project. The airport industrial park, the FAA, I received an email from Ken Hall on December 20th saying the FAA is close to wrapping up their Section 163 review process. After today's presentation by Lithium Nevada, I just wanted to clarify that the section 163 review is related to the eastern parcel. The western parcel, which Lithium Nevada proposed to buy or lease, is unrestricted, and we do not need FAA's approval to do anything with that parcel. The BLM expansion project is still, Armstrong is aware of it and is incorporating it with the heavy ramp reconstruction design. Hargrave Lane is complete. A recreation complex, probably after the aquatic center RFP and that design's underway, we might look at doing a similar RFP for design of the rest of the recreation complex. No new updates at the community garden. The Tank 1C project is complete. The general aviation apron hard stand project is complete. We are in the 1-year warranty period and we are watching it closely because of some of the quality issues that were encountered during that project. The heavy aircraft apron reconstruction design is underway, and that's the one that's in conjunction with the BLM seat base expansion. Hanson Street Water and Sewer Project. This has grown into a little bit bigger project. Originally, we had just intended to put in a water main in Hanson Street. We've talked about the sewer main that all collects behind Ron Seed. And from Ron Seed, it goes under the railroad tracks. It actually heads over to the sports complex and it crosses 2 or more private properties, 3, I guess. It crosses a private property off the side of the west side of 6th Street. It goes through the Ridley's property and it goes directly under Model T. So we thought it would be smart to put in a sewer main in Hanson Street when we have it dug up for the water main so that we could reroute that after it comes behind Ron Seed. It would go down Sheehan Street and then it would come north and tie in at Hanson Street. I just received the final survey data today, so we have to make sure that the grade works to do that. But it would solve some potential conflicts that we would have with private property in the future if we took the majority of the sewer flow down Hanson instead of through those private properties.
Is this something with the restricted lines we have that can be tied in coming by Ron's? So bigger line.
From like up above, from clear up from like water.
Up Hanson Street. So this would give us a bigger main from Sheehan out to the big floodplain sewer main we did a couple years ago. Then the only bottleneck is what is under the railroad tracks and Ron Seed. So that's something we will have to tackle as development occurs on the east side of the railroad tracks. But it gets us one step closer to
where we need to be.
Yeah, that we've narrowed down the bottleneck to just one location. Yeah.
That's awesome. And are you thinking that you'll cap it off then going underneath Ridley? So
there will
be a split there. I mean,
there would still be a small amount of flow from like the Ridley's property, possibly the NDOT yard. I'm not sure where that ties in, if it ties in on Nixon behind or if it would have to, I think. So I think there are a few properties that would still be tied into that main, but 90% of the flow would go down Hanson Street and right out to the big floodplain.
I think that would be great. Well, that road is torn up to do that would just, probably 50 or so. It would just add so much life to that sewer line. So yeah, as long as we can get it done because I don't want the state to obviously say, we're waiting on you.
Yeah, Dennis Faulkner is the project manager on the state side, and I've been talking to him frequently, and even though they plan to get started in April, which we would try to make it by April, they have flexibility all summer long, the whole construction season for their project.
Would it have anything to do with the railroad?
Not at this time.
This time.
Yeah.
We're trying to not have to wrestle that much.
teach.
Mike?
Yes. Employees. I noticed that we're looking for a new employee.
We have one vacancy in the water and sewer department. We had an employee that just wasn't working in the probationary period, and so we have that one vacancy.
And it's at the first, I mean, Tech One or whatever it's
I believe it's advertised as 1 or 2. So depending on experience, but it could be very entry level. It could be somebody with 10 years of experience in water sewer.
Okay. 2, the tank 1A, I know it's closed out. We're happy with everything that they did. That's those seals at bottom. There's no leaks or not leaks, but anything, there's no problems with quality.
1C?
1C, did I say 1A? Close. Still 1.
We knew what you meant.
That infamous that we've all looked at for 8 months. And 3, I know we had an airport board meeting yesterday, and I know that I've worked with Armstrong. Excuse me, the airport board has worked with Armstrong for 30 years, I guess. It's been forever. But they were bought out by Lochner, which expands their capacity with us. I think it's just going to open up some doors for us in the future. So they were very specific yesterday. They will still be Armstrong consultants. That would be probably 1 or 2. We had a good meeting yesterday. Here's our board chair right here, Wayne. We had a really good meeting because we also talked about the lease on the per hangar lease per year, per sublease at $100 per subleasees that's in a building. So a Dixie Air has 17, 27.
23.
23 hangars, and if half of them are used, they would be required to pay $100 per hangar. So it was just something we've never done in the past ever, but it will be something to allow us to take more control over who's using each one of our hangars. I thought we had a really good meeting today. I have to commend the mayor because it's never fun to stand in front of people that there's not one person that's out there going, go for it. So I appreciate what you did. So that's it.
Thank you. Vince, you got anything for us today?
Yes, I do. First of all, again, sorry I'm not there, but it's best for everybody. We had a Paradise Sonoma Conservation District meeting, and we lost 3 board members. So we're in the process of trying to round up the people from the Paradise Valley area and, get some people involved out there. Through medical issues or just time. And then we took one of our board members and made him the chairman. So we're looking for people to serve on this board. And it always seems like it's a difficult process. So the Humboldt Foundation, Peter Stone can probably add to this, but last night we did the Weiss scholarships for Great Basin College. And I'm assuming, Mayor, that we've done like we've done in the past, that we have okayed all of those.
On the Humboldt Foundation, last night, they only had 13 applicants for scholarships, which is probably the lowest I've ever seen. And normally we give $10,000, $11,000. And the original, if we paid $500, was going to be $4,600. But we decided that on the applications, anybody who was more than $500, we paid half of their tuition that was remaining after scholarships and that. And anybody, we did up to $500 if they were, below that. So we ended up giving $63.95 scholarships to 13 students yesterday. So I guess enrollment is not bad, but they are having problems getting people to fill out the application, turn in the paperwork. I mean, they're just hand feeding them to the students. And I think they had one electrical person this time. where a year ago they had like 6. They have the full electrical program, so I don't know, people just aren't motivated to ask for money.
Ask for money.
So that's the Humboldt Foundation.
Well, I know that we have that money out there all the time, and that's the biggest thing we run into is people finishing up the paperwork. The money's there for them. All they have to do is go through a process. But thank you there. HDA, nothing to report on that, or the Humboldt River Water Basin. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Vince. Ashley.
I don't have anything to report, but I'm excited to serve on Landfill and Historic Resources Commission. And then just want to thank everyone that did the work going into that new piece of equipment for our streets. It's exciting to have a different option than just the crack seal or redoing the whole street, and hopefully be able to keep that quality a little bit higher for longer for less cost. So
There is a Historic Resources Commission on Friday.
Okay.
Meeting on Friday at 10:30. I'll forward you Dana's email and I'll let Dana know that you are the.
There's a landfill committee, I think, on Michigan next Tuesday. Yeah.
Yes.
Pam.
Yeah, a couple things. So to address the motion I made last meeting at the December 13th with regards to awarding Eric Silva, the director of Main Street, his second allotment, I did not preface it when I made that motion that I am a board member. Now, I don't know if everybody heard it, but Michelle Miller did. I believe Teresa may have asked, or maybe even yourself, who the board members were on the Main Street. And she did mention that I got voted in as a secretary. Originally, I was just a liaison. I did not want to be an actual board member, should there be any conflict, but there's turned out really not to be conflict. However, I should have disclosed that I was a board member. Any way, shape, or form from the payment made to Eric Silva. I just wanted to bring that out of it. So it could be. We're getting.
What is that?
Okay.
And the money had already been allocated to it.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of releasing the funds, so. But, and that's something we may want to talk about at some point in time is actually being a board member versus being a liaison. Because being a liaison, you go back and forth and you keep people informed, but being a board member, that changes your perspective as a city councilman. So.
Yes, absolutely.
I know you didn't ask to be appointed on that board, but.
But we were running out of board members, so.
Well, but that's
Yes.
a board problem, not a band problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. So my negligence, again, I apologize. Carrying on with that, same token, we do have a meeting tonight. And basically just to discuss our next move. There was some talk about whether or not the Main Street Committee did, or whether we made a profit from the chili cook-off. If you take into consideration just the reported funds that were spent by various board members, but what was not included is all the personal expenses that each of us incurred. And so that's going to be dealt with tonight. And the reason I do bring that up is initially when Dave Roden, our president, went to WCBA, they did mention that part of the monies that had been given to us, the 2,500, that 1,200 would go back if we made a profit. There's a slim profit that was made just because of all the personal expenses each one of us incurred. So we're going to go over that in fine detail tonight. Did not have a FCC meeting last month. We do have one later this month. And yes, I will start attending the landfill meetings. Thought I was an alternative, but yes, I will definitely be attending those.
Okay. We lost the chief. Yes, sir.
I mentioned to you the other day, but it looks like they're cleaning up like Ben's Liquor, that area a little bit.
I noticed that, so.
By and they're stripping the faded signs off.
They have a new owner operator, and part of getting the business license gives our building inspector an opportunity to go in and do inspections, where before we did not have that. So Sam's gone in, pointed out some electrical issues, talked about the awning. So they're definitely working on it. I guess they gave Debbie a tour last week and she said it's a really big improvement. So.
Oh, excellent. And I mentioned to Rich, there's a area sidewalk. I'll send you a picture in front of Tom. And
I talked to Kenny about that.
Okay, we're good.
They were aware and they were going to do it. So.
Good.
Okay. It's that time of year again. Our contributions, expenses for who ran for election need to be filed by the 15th. And appointed elected officials need to do their annual financial reporting by the 15th. So you got.
The 17th this year.
Oh, it's the 17th.
Yeah, but if you've done it before.
It's pretty simple. You just
go in,
roll everything.
and you populate the form, you change the number of years you've been alive, the number of years you've been a resident. And then that's it.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Annual.
Sure as a heart failure when you see a possible fine if you don't submit them.
Yeah.
And you have, actually has the financial disclosure, or not the finance, but the ethics report. You have to file that for with the ethics commission report you file. You should know. So talk to me, I'll show.
Yeah.
I think it was in the original packet.
Yeah, I think so, but you only have to file it one time for your term of office.
Okay.
And then like appointed officials file it in an even number of years. So this is an odd number of years, so there's no filing for appointed. Elected have to file it January 15 after the year.
Okay.
Just don't want anybody to miss that.
Yeah, no.
Pool pack orientation is January 20th. And the League of Cities is February 3rd and 4th. If anybody's, you don't need to.
Where's that going to be? Where is that going to be?
So they did the,
It's in
Oh,
UNR.
UNR is.
that's the one.
It's the Redfield campus.
Today.
Yeah.
And the other one, pool pack is person.
Atlantis.
It's not the League of Cities, it's the League of Cities.
The pool pack one is at the Atlantis.
Oh, I thought you meant the League of Cities. Okay.
Not the con, the just
No, it's-
mean that they're
Yeah,
doing it.
orientation.
Yeah.
For,
Just
and other than that, county's trying to have a joint meeting about FEMA training. We're still working on that. I did contact Dave and he does not want to do it when they do their retreat because they have a full day. So he said he'd get back to me on dates. So it's a 4-hour thing coming from emergency management personnel. So other than that, I don't have anything. Call for public comment. Wayne, Dave? Nothing. Will anybody online have public comment?
No.
Okay, with that, we'll adjourn our meeting. Thank you all.